It's the 10 to 1 podcast with your host, Brad Oman, featuring Ben Conowitz and Nate Laux. And here's the podcast.
Yes, it is.
No, what? It's not.
It's so low.
How?
I don't know. It's for some reason this time around I was like, and here's the podcast.
It doesn't sound. It doesn't sound.
You're slow motion.
No, you sound like the Talkboy in Home Alone 2. Hello, this is Peter McAllister, the father, and I'd like a hotel room, please, with an extra large bed,
One
a
cheese
TV,
pizza. Is
and
that
one
what
of those little refrigerators you have to open with a key.
with a key.
Credit card? You got it.
Which one of you jerks had one of those when you're little?
I had it.
I wanted one so
I wanted
bad.
one. All the rich kids got them, and I didn't.
I didn't because
I had one.
No, I lived in a trailer park. I didn't.
I literally had a talk.
Yeah, of course you did.
I know. I know. We're saying.
I didn't know that was a rich thing.
Of course it was, because it was overpriced, because it was from the movie, and only rich kids could get it for Christmas.
Because Brad and I would get it like 4 years later
Yeah.
when
Your parents
but
couldn't afford $24. No, Nate, your dad could. He just like no.
No, he didn't love me enough though.
No.
And my parents recognized that it was just a glorified tape recorder.
Yeah, but it was cool because it had like the microphone that came out.
This
That
is
was
a
handheld.
glorified tape
Man, what a
recorder.
cool thing
It was awesome.
What a cool
Did
iPhone.
you use it ever?
Oh my god! Every day, like I remember a whole summer of using it.
That's how Ben started his comedy career.
Yeah.
No, that's how this podcast actually started. If you go back last season, you'll
The
hear it.
10 to 1 podcast.
Why did you do that voice the entire time?
Because it's kind of what you sound like.
This isn't a Home Alone podcast. This is a Saturday Night Live podcast. Welcome to the 10 to 1. We talk about every new episode of SNL, at least for the past season and a half. And
Was there SNL before that? I don't know.
We don't. No one can say.
This is season 48, and the host this weekend was Dave Chappelle.
Really?
Yeah, it was the third time he's hosted. The first time he hosted was back in 2016 after a pretty big election, and it was a big kind of sensation because he did stand up at the top for his monologue. It was kind of what we needed to hear at the time after feeling defeated after that election where Donald Trump became president. Then he came back after the 2020 election when Joe Biden won the presidency, and it's become kind of a tradition now. Lorne Michaels brings Dave Chappelle back to offer his take on things happening after an election, and we just had the midterms where the Republicans didn't have their red wave wash out as much blue as they
Or a
hoped.
red tsunami. It was a red drip. But,
Yeah. Oof, yuck.
Let
That
me
sounds
before,
bad,
because
actually.
we're going to talk probably critique Dave Chappelle a little bit on some things here in a second. But let me talk
just
about
a teeny bit.
Let me talk about what I think Dave Chappelle has done and well. In 2016, I was depressed after the election. I didn't go the way that I wanted it to,
Mm-hmm.
and Dave Chappelle came on SNL, and I laughed for the first time probably honestly since the election. And he made some jokes that I thought were culturally at the right moment. It was electric for me because it met the moment. It was the first time I'd laughed in a while. And honestly, it was almost the first time I thought, all right, we're gonna get back up and we're gonna pick ourselves up and we're gonna try it again, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Dave Chappelle did that. And honestly, and I don't want to be overly dramatic about what he did, but SNL
Felt
and
good. It
Dave
felt
Chappelle,
good.
they brought me back. Didn't feel the same. I didn't maybe need the same in 2020 because
Sure.
Biden won, these kind of things.
But it was still.
It was still funny. Let me say there were some sketches I laughed at, but we're going to have some criticism that I don't think we've levied in any other episode of SNL like we're going to have tonight.
Yeah. But, we'll get to Dave Chappelle in a little bit. Let's just jump right into the normal part of the show with the cold open. Nate, what happened?
Fox and Friends Cold Open, written by Mike DeCenzo, Allison Gates, Ken Sublett. The hosts of Fox and Friends, Mikey Day, Heidi Gardner, and Bowen Yang, interviewed Carrie Lake, played by Cecily Strong, and Donald Trump, played so well by James Austin Johnson about the 2022 midterm election. And let me say this before we get into this. I have spoke many minutes about how much I love James Austin Johnson and James Austin Johnson's impression of Donald Trump. Here we are getting ready for probably on Thursday, maybe this week, for Donald Trump to announce that he's running again. I'm ready for a Donald Trump reprieve on SNL. I'm
ready for a Donald Trump reprieve in all facets of life.
That good point. But this is not a reflection of my belief in the ability of James Austin Johnson. He does the best Trump. He's so skilled. I don't always think the comedy is perfect there, but his Trump is perfect.
Yeah, his impression is beyond
I'm
reproach.
just ready for a break.
However, oh my God, how many times in a row can you do this as a cold open? Come on, guys.
Yeah, we've talked endlessly about how the news pundit shows, the press conferences, any of the typical political satire stuff doesn't work for SNL, and this is clearly more evidence of that. The one thing I will say that I appreciated to some level was the fact that the sketch itself does act as a reaction to what is actually happening with the Republicans as they are distancing themselves from Trump, because clearly he did not help in the way maybe that he used to.
They're setting up a Ron DeSantis run, is what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I like the idea of seeing Fox and Friends do that, but the sketch itself isn't anything strong. And also, I gotta say, seems like a weird choice to have Bowen Yang play Brian Kilmeade.
But I will say that if we're moving on as a country from Donald Trump, and even the Republicans are moving on from him, this is kind of a nice bookend to be like, the show's doing it as well.
Yeah.
And this is not the last of James Austin Johnson's Trump. We'll see, of course.
Or of Donald Trump at all.
No, but this feels like they're shoving him out of the picture in the right way. And that's what made this sketch okay instead of terrible. I hate, the political, they're just terrible at them. This one felt a little different, and maybe it's because I'm like, okay, oh yeah, we're getting rid of him. Okay, maybe that's what that felt like a little bit.
Did you jerk off while the sketch was happening?
Oh yeah.
Now Ben, as a super wealthy small business owner, I assume watch Fox and Friends most mornings.
Oh
but
no! Why would you say that?
Did you like the Brian Kilmeade impression by Bowen Yang?
Who else is gonna? So Mikey Day. Is
in this sketch.
No, and that's the thing is it can't be James Justin Johnson, it can't be Mikey Day, and that's pretty much everybody who can play Brian Kilmeade and be
the white man convincing? Is getting killed on SNL here, guys.
We talked about it off air a little bit. Hernandez, what's
Marcelo Hernandez?
So he maybe.
Yeah, maybe
could have done it, but if Fred
Armisen can be Obama, then Marcelo Hernandez can be Brian Kilmeade, right?
For sure.
But at the end of the day, I'm sorry, but Alex Moffat, Kyle Mooney are gone.
They're all gone.
It's weird. Listen,
and no one's gonna beat Bobby Moynihan's Brian Kilmeade.
No, of course not. But and also we are not we're not
lamenting. We're not
hurting for white male leads on the show.
Not at all. It's just strange that this is how it worked out.
It's so funny to me too, because when do you need them? During a Fox News segment, which is hilarious.
And also I think it maybe speaks to the position that maybe some people had about Dave Chappelle hosting.
That's a great point.
To lead back into it, because Bowen Yang is famously homosexual.
Famously.
And he
I've heard that.
Probably has some issues with the way Dave Chappelle has been treated the LGBTQ plus community. And then if you look at the goodbyes, Bowen Yang, I didn't see him on stage.
No, he wasn't
I didn't
there.
see Molly Kearney on
Sarah
stage.
Sherman wasn't there.
But apparently Sarah Sherman not part of LGBTQ plus community.
But
shocking to me, honestly.
No.
Yeah.
But she wasn't at the
right. Yeah, she was not.
I wasn't making a statement about her.
No, exactly.
There,
was Cecily Strong there in the goodbye?
She was.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get to that, but I will say, if Bowen Yang was standing with Nate, how we know Celestium is a trans writer on the show. Mm-hmm. How many sketches did she write this week?
That I can find, she wrote none of them.
Right. So it's not a boycott. She's just taking a week off, and that's fine. Of course, respect it, love it. Think that's a great move. I think that maybe this is Bowen Yang being like, oh, hey, here's a sketch where Dave Chappelle and I are not interacting. I get to do this, and then I can take the rest of the night off. And they allowed it because, they respect Bowen Yang as a cast member that has LGBTQ plus. Thank you. All of the letters plus the plus sign that I'm terrible at saying. That is a very, very appropriate response from the show. Yep. If he's able to do that and then take the rest of the night off, good for him.
Yeah, I would love to hear some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that happened this week. I doubt we ever will.
But the LGBTQ plus community, has been represented on the show for quite a while now, and Molly Kearney, especially, and Celestium are two people that are clearly in that genre of people. But no, there are plenty of people on the show that are not willing to stand with Dave Chappelle. Clearly,
yeah. And again, I want to be very careful about those that did perform, I don't want to judge, or I don't want to.
The show has to go on.
The show has to go on.
I mean, even when Donald Trump hosted, there was plenty of backlash and people didn't do the show, but the show still had to happen.
So to a certain extent, I want to celebrate those that made the principled decision to say, no, I will only do this amount. This is where my value.
But do you want to celebrate Dave Chappelle?
But I only want to celebrate the cast members and the writers.
Okay, yeah, because you know why?
Moving on to Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, because we don't need to celebrate Dave Chappelle for this monologue, especially because
it was like so it was a long monologue, right? And it was
15 minutes,
12 minutes of problematic stuff, 3 minutes of really funny stuff, and 1 minute of just like dog whistles.
Yeah, and the thing is like so Dave Chappelle as a comedian has changed, because he's gotten a little bit more arrogant, and like I think that he sees that people look to him to be like this barometer for culture, for society, and he used to have the strength of a comedian that deserved that.
He is a little bit of a pariah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he has a huge following.
Absolutely, but
so does Joe Rogan.
But this time he's doing careful anti-Semitism.
Exactly.
Essentially. Because if you listen to what he says when he talks about Kanye West, which was the focus of much of his monologue, his stand-up bit here, he's not denouncing what Kanye said necessarily, but he's saying that he just didn't say it the right way. And he's basically stopping just short of defending what Kanye West is saying, or at least his right to say it maybe, but saying that there's a better way to go about it, because he mentions a couple times this idea of what Kanye was getting at about Jewish people controlling the media. What he says in the monologue is if it's a bunch of black people, they're a gang. If it's Italians, they're a mob. If it's Jewish people, it's a coincidence, and no one should say anything about it. That's basically saying don't say anything bad about Jewish people, or you're going to get canceled. And I'm sorry, but
it's also saying they are a gang, they are the mob.
Exactly.
But you just can't say it.
Exactly. And this is
holy shit.
It's not as if joking about Jewish people having a prominence in media is anything new. Jewish comedians have done it for decades. Everyone has joked about it, but it's how you joke about it that matters. Not only was this funny, but it feels like a veiled criticism that is essentially anti-Semitic. And it feels
not funny.
Yeah, it feels like it's normalizing it.
Yeah, and in order to do that, you certainly have to do, like you said, some careful weaving of what is and is not anti-Semitism in your comedy.
Yeah.
Right. And he really didn't do that at all in the monologue, even in the setup at the beginning, where he comes out and he reads this statement of apology, and he says, Kanye West, this is how you ask for forgiveness.
That's how you buy time.
That's how you buy time.
As in, like, you don't have to mean it. Just act like you do.
And again,
that was his entire monologue was, here's how you buy time so that you can maybe structure a better defense so you don't lose your Adidas deal.
Yeah.
Here's how you can be anti-Semitic and mean it in your heart, but come across as a way that you won't lose your deals.
And the idea that people ask for forgiveness that don't mean it, that is not an uncommon thing. Right?
Sure,
people do
of course. But just the idea that you can say things like...
separate this monologue from the time that we exist, where statistics tell us anti-Semitism is on the rise, where synagogues have been shot up or set on fire, these kind of things. And so there is much in the American Jewish community to be very afraid of. And the question becomes, again, as we've talked about here on the podcast many times, in our other podcasts, Go Flix Yourself, are you punching down or are you punching up? We appreciate comedy and we love comedy, even biting comedy, even sometimes offensive comedy that punches up. We don't appreciate comedy that punches down.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you can't make fun
nor should you.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean you can't make fun of Jewish people at times, or Christian people, or,
anybody
or anything.
Yep. Jerry Seinfeld is
a
very famous,
punch down.
As Brad says, very famously Jewish, Jerry Seinfeld is, and has made a lot of Jewish types of jokes, right? There are comedians.
Pete Davidson's father died in 9/11, and Pete Davidson has some of the most hilarious 9/11 jokes I've ever heard.
And other people have made hilarious jokes about it to him.
And that's the thing. You don't need to be part of the group to make fun of the group, as long as it truly comes across as out of love and you're making a comment on it without punching down.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't know what punching down or punching up is, just Google it and it'll come across. All right. You don't want to marginalize somebody because they are of a certain race, creed,
and
sexual
this, I
orientation.
think this is where the circumstance that's comes along that is interesting with Dave Chappelle, because Dave Chappelle obviously is a black comedian. He's done a lot of race-based humor sketches on the Chappelle Show that are based around culture and race and like the position of different races and class and things like that. But Dave Chappelle has taken it upon himself to be this sort of arbiter of like how racism is perceived, and has begun comparing the oppression of black people to the oppression of gay people, and how they don't have it necessarily as bad as black people do, and defending people, not necessarily defending, but going out of their way to not necessarily be as judgmental about people like Kanye West or Kyrie Irving because they are black and he does share a kinship with them, and doesn't necessarily want to see them, harmed or canceled because of mistakes they've made, but also not necessarily acknowledging the pain and troubles that come from saying these kinds of things are, and in doing so is kind of like dancing around the idea that this is wrong and trying to make jokes out of it that aren't necessarily acknowledging the real problem.
I don't want my people to be looked down upon. Therefore, anything they say, I can try to defend even a little bit, and I won't even think about anybody else.
Yeah.
And that it's very selfish and it's very hardcore, and it's a real difficult take for the general populace, black, white, Asian, anybody.
We will fully acknowledge and reference our self-awareness that we are just three white dudes talking about this on a podcast. But there are prominent and black media critics out there who are saying the exact same thing. Like they're not on board with this. This is not okay. So like,
just because you are clearly being mistreated doesn't mean that other people aren't also being mistreated.
Yeah.
That's a really hard take to be like, we have it worse thing. Why is it a competition? Why can't everybody other than honestly white people, they have it really bad, but trying to compare, it's just like a race to the bottom type thing. Like who's got it literally the worst. And that's a tough pill to swallow for everybody.
Yeah. James Baldwin in 1967 wrote this very famous article in the New York Times.
That's Alec's older brother, right?
James Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin's older brother?
No, not okay.
So he wrote this New York Times, essentially just like, article about where, because in his culture, again, in his time in the 60s, he noticed that there was a growing black anti-Jewish sentiment. And one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to correct the record a little bit and say, listen, this isn't your ire is pointed at the wrong people and wrong things. You're mistaking a group of people for being the essentially the oppressors when really it's not them. And that if you opened your heart and you opened your mind to the issue is Jewish people, and actually Dave Chappelle has even said this before, Jewish people, Jewish Americans have actually had to endure, as we obviously know from Holocaust, these kind of things, but have had to endure significant amounts of oppression, significant amounts of marginalization. So that some Jewish members of America and, media have influence doesn't negate the fact that Jewish Americans are still and have gone through significant hardships to have a living and to have a life in America. And again, as we, at this time in history, seem to be far more binary in our look at our neighbors of who is good and who is bad, it becomes dangerous when a very prominent comedian, and I would even argue cultural critic, as he's become, doesn't sometimes push against the things that are harming the country. Dave Chappelle has done very incredible and brilliant cultural comedy, even those that have been against my tribe, you might say, my people, right? He makes fun of and points out the hypocrisies in liberal or democratic politics. He talks about why people love Donald Trump. And it wasn't just because they were racist, as sometimes liberals want to make it seem. It's not. It was when he was running in 2015 and 2016, as he says in his monologue, which was, I think, great cultural commentary. It was because he was the outsider. right? He was the outsider that says, I'm the one on the inside, and I'm telling you, it's all crazy in here, right? And people said, oh, really? I thought it was crazy. And the guy on the inside says it's crazy. I agree. And so...
But then he went back into the house and just kept doing it.
Exactly.
Which is
that's the good cultural commentary. He's making fun of his own tribe. He even admits, I'm a Democrat, right?
And I love that though, because he's literally saying that he's defending MAGA at that point, saying these people didn't vote for him because they're racist. They voted for him because
there may be some, but that's not,
sure, but that's not the majority. The majority voted for them because he looked at it like, or they looked at it like, this is somebody who's telling it like it is.
We've noticed
my father.
I
honestly think my dad voted for Trump in 2016, and it wasn't because my dad's a racist. Because I know he's not, but he absolutely believed like finally somebody is telling the truth, and that caught my dad and a lot of people like him in 2016. My father voted for Biden in 2020. I know that for a fact. He told me. We've had long conversations about it. I asked him what the difference was. And he said it was no longer about an outsider. It was now I know who the guy was.
Yep.
And that's why, by and large, he lost in 2020.
It's why a lot of people like Bernie Sanders, right? Because Bernie Sanders said very similar things. The system is rigged, right? And so, when Dave Chappelle goes and talks about that kind of cultural commentary, talking about the hypocrisies, even to people that agree with me, I'm talking about Nate, that agree with me, whether they're people of faith like I am, or Democrats like I am, or things like that. It's so well done, and he's so skilled at it, and he can weave a really good joke through it. But this was punching down.
I don't understand,
I don't like it.
Honestly, where he's become so tone deaf in that way, because he's a very brilliant person, not just a brilliant comedian. This man understands everything, and he's choosing men to do this. I think that's why I don't get it.
He's reached a point, and you reach a point when you're so famous, you're so respected, no one can really tell you no anymore. No one's guiding you. You're guiding yourself. It's George Lucas directing the Star Wars prequels. No one's stopping him from
putting all the money,
putting
all the
Jar Jar
power.
Binks in the Phantom Menace, or making a droid with 4 lightsabers.
My favorite scene in that movie.
I mean, I love General Grievous, but he's
bad point, Brad.
He's able to do what he wants to do. No one's stopping him. And Dave Chappelle's at that point right now. He's surrounded by yes people, and the people who are trying to tell him. Like, he doesn't care because no one's going to tell him what to do.
And you can dismiss him as woke, quote unquote woke, or something like this. And here's the thing: is we talked last episode. I think there was a sketch in SNL in the last episode that was about COVID, and it had some backlash and some people online that were upset about it because again, they treated it as something that took COVID-19, not seriously.
Yeah, you can't joke about it.
Yeah. And we disagreed here because, again, you should be able to joke about things. But there is a difference, right? There is a big difference. And I think that's what we're getting at here in this critique of his monologue is it seems like Dave Chappelle doesn't get the difference. Or he knows the difference and he's choosing to push past it.
I think that my problem with it...
And then that becomes mean.
My problem with it is that he does know the difference and he's choosing.
Yeah,
that's way different. He's not dumb enough to not know the difference. And that's the more problematic part of it.
So moving on, let's get to some of these sketches. There were some good sketches, some bad sketches. Let's talk about them. All right, the first one, I know my buddy Brad loved this one because I actually go to Slash Film and where Brad
I don't know
works,
what that is.
And I read his after I watch the episodes and I do my own critiques.
Thank you, Nate.
I read Brad's.
Nate, how do you watch the episodes?
I watched it on Peacock this week.
Oh,
see, I do influence people.
So
slashfilm.com.
Sorry, I just coughed a little bit. I'm sorry.
Potato Hole, written by Mike DeCenzo and Jake Norman.
Why'd you say it like that?
Potato Hole.
2 TV Acres, played by Heidi Gardner and Andrew Dismukes. Interview musician Willie T. Hawkins, played by Dave Chappelle, who has an album titled Potato Hole. Chloe Feynman plays a weathercaster, and Michael Longfellow plays a sportscaster. They also appear in this sketch. What did you think? Let's start with you, Benny.
So back in the 90s, there was a Indy car driver named Willie T. Ribbs. legitimately that he's an African American driver.
Just to let us know, we are Hoosiers, so we actually know.
Sorry, yeah, I know all about. My parents had an Indy 500 party over here. So as soon as I heard Willie, what was the name of the character?
Willie T. Hawkins.
So I immediately thought of the black, NASCAR or the Indy driver, Willie T. Ribbs, and it resonated with me a little bit. Because I'm like, oh, that's a very common name. I think that maybe, people watching this sketch is like, wow, that's a pretty racist name, but that's a pretty common, name for an old blues musician, or, it's not that bad as far as we are concerned. The funny part about this sketch, obviously, is Dave Chappelle smoking. I just loved it so much. Brad, did you love the smoking?
Well, then you must have loved all of the sketches where he was legitimately smoking real cigarettes.
Oh my God.
Even the photos they took for his SNL bumpers before sketches begin, he's smoking in almost all of them.
Anyway.
He's addicted to cigarettes, guys.
Clearly.
Cigarettes are bad. Cigarettes kill. Don't smoke.
What?
So this
is that
that's not it's not proven. Listen, the sponsor of the show, Big Tobacco, will tell you.
Cigarettes.
Yeah. Hey, Big Tobacco, you want us to change our opinions? You send us
some money. And
or some cigarettes.
We know you have both. No, so this sketch, a lot of buildup, a lot of slow buildup. And Dave Chappelle, bored, of course, for all of his foibles in the monologue and whatever he has to say societally or politically, the man is a comedian. He knows how to deliver a line. He knows how to act. He had a great way of delivering all of his lines.
It felt like a Chappelle Show sketch.
It did. And it was, batter up and knock it out of the park. Like, they just set it up so well and crushed it.
Well, and what I love about this sketch, because this was the sketch that I love the most, is initially the sketch felt clunky and awkward to me. I was like, is this really going to be like their bit? Like they're all going to make puns about something that sounds vaguely sexual. Because I don't know about you, Ben, I wasn't aware of what a potato hole really was.
So I will be the first to admit, or second to admit now, I honestly was like, oh, what a fun thing that. And then when I just found out earlier today when we were talking about this, oh, that's literally what that was called in the sketch is real. I, of course, just kind of like the news anchors. I kind of feel like them.
No, and that's what was great about it, is it had this lead up, and then like it throws this a shocking punchline at you.
That is true.
Yeah, and the cuts to each of the cast members looking awkward and horrified at what has just happened are great. It's a short sketch because it's only 3.5 minutes, and it works so well because of the lead up and the punchline.
Longfellow especially, holding the golf pose as he's being introduced to what it really means. It's tremendous. It's so funny.
Yeah, it was just a great way to pull this sketch off.
Loved it.
Short, sweet, didn't overstay its welcome, and was sharp and funny.
Do you guys really want to know why I know what a potato hole is? Why I knew?
Why did you know that?
So in the town, our listeners won't know this, but in the town that I grew up in, I went to a small rural farm kind of school. These guys went to big inner city schools in
the town of 10,000 or more people.
Yeah, and so I went to this small rural school, but there was a road. I'm not kidding you.
There is a road called Potato Hole Road.
Potato Hole Road.
Oh, really?
And I explored why is it Potato Hole Road?
And you know what, Nate? I'll be honest with you, buddy. I've done estimates for my business on that.
You know that road, right?
I've been on that, and honestly,
never thought about it.
I've never, and you know why though?
Because you're white.
No. Yes. But I will say, on that road, this is so, we can cut all this, but there is an actual enormous hole on that road. Like, there's a dip that it goes down 400 feet, like a big concave thing. And as you go around it, I'm like, oh, I'm sure somebody from over top cartographically looked at this and said, oh, it's in the shape of a potato and that's a big hole in the ground. I'm not joking. There's literally that.
Honestly, it might. I don't know why that road was named the way it was.
It looked like that, and I'm like, oh, that's probably why.
I didn't do a legitimate reason to wonder.
I didn't do the research, Nate.
But I wondered why. What is it? Because I thought, well, a potato hoe or a potato hole, like that seems weird, right? And we did talk about that in school. And again, don't know if that's why it was named that or not.
A potato hoe is what they called me in college because I liked French fries so much.
Hey,
Nate, Brett, can we cut that? Can we cut all?
Brett, we're still calling you that. All right.
I do still love French fries, so I'll take it.
Moving on, pre-tape, House of the Dragon, written by only Colin Jost, who is not a head writer anymore. Reminder, he is just a regular writer and the host.
Oh, and here's a good reason why.
Oh,
This was terrible.
Hey, let me get in with
Sorry.
House of the Dragons. If you've watched the HBO show on on
HBO.
House of the Dragons with Chloe Fineman, Michael Longfellow, Mikey Day, Keenan Thompson, Ego Nwodim, Punky Johnson, James Austin Johnson, Dave Chappelle, with cameos by Ice-T and Donnell Rollins as different characters. So it takes a lot of the old Chappelle show characters, brings them back in the setting of the Game of Thrones show, House of the Dragon. I know, Ben, you love this sketch. So why did you love it so much?
This was the laziest thing I've ever seen. It was terrible. Like I remember last time when they did the whole Negan thing from Walking Dead, and I was like, oh, cool, whatever it is. I thought at that time, oh, cool. Honestly, cool. They're bringing back a Chappelle show character and they're giving him a send off, and this is fun. This felt like, oh, we have nothing.
Yep.
We're just gonna
Dave, you remember all those YouTube clips we've seen of your show that did really good?
Yeah.
Let's bring them back.
What the fuck was this? Now, I think that Brad and I talked about this maybe off show. The costuming, the CGI, the whatever. If you're throwing that together in a week,
yeah.
What's the guy that you follow?
So it's Louis
V.
Louis Zakarian. It's Louis ZFX, I believe it is.
And so he's the one that comes up with most of.
So he does a lot of makeup, prosthetic, production design kind of things. If you go look at his Instagram right now, you'll see his 3 recent posts are about doing stuff, makeup and things for this sketch, because it looks like a legit Game of Thrones episode. They did a phenomenal job.
Give him and his team an Emmy for this sketch. It is gorgeous. It's perfect in that way. It is so disappointing that they chose to build all this up, categorically perfect sketch as far as costuming and VFX and everything, and then do this with it.
And there's gonna be former lovers of the show, right? The Dave Chappelle show.
Oh,
they're gonna
former
love
lovers.
see me. They're gonna
Who
love,
is the lady? No, that's actually Saturday Night.
They're gonna see this and they're gonna love seeing the characters that they loved in that show.
Fine,
But it's lazy. It
Good
is lazy.
Lord,
It's the lazy
version.
but I will say the premise of the sketch I still appreciate, but it's just a shame it's wasted, because the idea of the cast of a Game of Thrones show being diversified to have more black members,
Which they did.
yeah,
right?
because they got criticized initially that there weren't a lot of
Again,
people
though,
of color in the original Game of Thrones series.
Name me another sketch that you've seen recently that had such a good idea that fell so fucking flat.
I think there's one every week probably.
But this
I feel
one
like
was-
we talk about that.
this
the premise
felt
is good, but
this felt offensively lazy. Like
Yeah.
this was the most shoehorned thing. Hey, let's take the thing that this other guy's been known for and just haphazardly throw them in here. It was so bad.
Yeah.
I hated this.
I wonder if it would have been better, I don't know, 4 years ago.
But it was. They already did it.
No, but I mean if they did this like during the original Game of Thrones.
Fair. Instead of what they did with the
Yeah.
Walking Dead sketch, sure.
No, and again, like you
Yeah.
said, in the first one where they're making fun of them not having any actors of
Right.
color. in there.
There's something there, but not this.
Yeah.
All right.
Blech.
Barbershop Talk, written by Michael Che, Alex English, Brian Tucker. Workers and customers at a barbershop, played by Keenan Thompson, Ego Nwodim, Punky Johnson, Devin Walker, and Dave Chappelle, discuss various topics. In contrast, a white worker, Michael Longfellow, has different opinions on all of them. I'm going to say this about Devin Walker. Dude, you better learn to do something different than just standing there in a sketch looking all Pete Davidson-like, or you're not going to get into a lot of sketches. I actually looked at him and I thought, he needs to find something about his persona. For instance, you look at Keenan, and they can do something with just a look, right? There's something about their presence that makes it funny. Bowen Yang can do it, right? Cecily Strong
It's
can
still
do it.
early for him.
I know,
though.
I know.
But I will
again,
say,
though,
like,
I know.
when they cut to him and it was his turn to deliver a line, it was like, and action. And he goes, oh,
Yep,
there was a
it
lot
just-
of that.
I hope
Everyone
he can
makes
find
mistakes.
Listen, I'm just
still,
saying.
It's still early.
It's
I'm a
not,
huge
though, because
fan.
other
It
people are
is.
crushing it.
Sure, but give him a break.
Aristotle, right? I mean, he
No,
got a
fuck off
season.
with Aristotle.
He got a season.
No.
But Devin Walker is one of the younger cast members.
He is very young.
You
I don't
know?
give a shit. Like,
But do you get what I'm saying, though? You
Hernandez
gotta
is
find
crushing it.
Sure. But
Longfellow is crushing
not everyone's
it.
going to be
Molly
on
Kearney.
that speed right
Kearney
away.
is crushing
Give
it.
him some time.
3 out of the 4 of them are crushing
nice.
it.
I'm not disagreeing with
Be
you, Brad. I think you're right.
nice.
I'm just saying when you see him in this sketch, you're like, dude, there were
Stop
some other
taking
funny
me out of the
things.
sketch.
Yeah, you need to.
Oh
figure
yeah,
out
that was
something.
what took you out of the sketch. It's not the fact that they have the fucking sound cue only on for a little bit just before for the audio cue that acts like the record scratch.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know that you guys laugh at me when I do my little logistical nitpick from time
Did
to
you
time.
want to push your glasses up
Hey,
real quick?
It's not just us.
Oh, he
It's
literally
not just
pushes.
us that laughs at you. Everyone.
Everyone
laughs.
laughs.
Shut the fuck up. No, so this really annoyed me in this sketch because they use the sound of the barbershop buzzer to act as a record scratch in the sketch as
Sure.
like a Keenan reacting like really suck the wind out of the room. But you don't hear the buzzers on for the rest of the sketch, even though Chappelle's clearly doing that.
It
And you
was.
can sit there. You can sit there and say,
Yep,
"Well, you can't have that sound though with the sketch." Like, yeah, you can.
You can.
You
Low
have it on
buzz.
very quiet,
Yep.
and then you make the other one louder, and you still get the same effect. But otherwise, it kind of takes you out of the reality of the situation.
And honestly, I really can't believe that they didn't know that, because they're really normally pretty good at setting the stage like that. And it was, I will admit, Brad is right. It was very jarring when Keenan
wait, say
did
it again. Say it again. What was that?
It was jarring.
it was jarring. It was very jarring.
No, go back to the first part.
He's just not as good as Hernandez or Kearney.
No, that wasn't it.
That was the first part.
It's Kearney.
Kearney. Anyway,
Brad was right.
long story short, Longfellow story short.
Ha.
It is though. If you're gonna make the sketch about the sound that Keenan makes with the, because it was like, and moving on.
Yeah.
But then from that moment where he buzzes, you literally cut back to Chappelle holding basically the same item, and it's making no noise.
Exactly.
I'm not joking. It really did take me out of
Yeah.
it.
And one thing I want to say is I don't think the sketch is very great, first of all, because it feels like we've seen this premise a lot before. There's a white guy in the middle of a room of black people. He's the odd one out because everyone's like, oh, it's the weird white guy.
Honestly, that's fine if it's done well, but there was nothing
I've
here.
seen this.
Yeah.
This is a funny comedy trope.
Exactly. Yeah,
occasionally.
it can work even if it's done repeatedly.
Especially at the end, though. It was so bad the way they ended it.
I felt like Longfellow even kind of botched his delivery of like, maybe I'll get some customers next time.
Right.
You know?
It was awkward as fuck.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, he's a cop, right? That's the joke.
That
I
was,
don't know.
I
It
didn't
was
get
so
that one,
weird.
but-
And on top of that,
Way to go, Colin Jost.
on top of that, I feel like I'm not sure why this sketch made it to air when they already had a better version of awkward white guy in the middle of black people with the Black Heaven sketch.
Which
Oh,
we're
wait,
gonna-
hold on.
which I love that
We'll
one.
get to that.
Yeah.
We will get to that.
So anyway, yeah, not a great sketch.
All right, moving on. We're already because again,
Yeah, we're already 9/10 of the way through the episode because there were only
we're already
2
weekend
sketches.
update because again the monologue was so long.
Yeah.
Weekend update with Colin Jost and Michael Che with guests Jose Suarez, Marcelo Hernandez, a man born and raised in Cuba who talks about running for president one day, and Sarah Sherman, who does a version of update titled The Sarah News. Let's start with weekend update as a whole. I thought again they've done great all season.
Michael Che
I thought they did great this.
doing demeaning, sexist jokes is now my new favorite thing.
Yeah.
He's been doing it for a while.
He's doing it to ruffle feathers.
Of course.
And that's what's funny about
He's
it.
doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Clearly. And we all know it's like maybe we all know it's coming, but does the audience actually not know it's coming?
I think sometimes they do, but like the audience is full of such like everyday people.
It's
you
so
know?
funny to me because he's clearly he doesn't mean any of it.
Yeah.
It's for the bit.
Yeah.
And that's an example of like when it looks like punching down, but it's not.
Yeah.
And that's actually for this episode, that's a great example of what we're talking
Absolutely.
about.
I think you're
when
right.
there's meta commentary that go along with it, then it's a different.
Yeah.
Ben, I
vibe.
think you're absolutely right there, and a good point out is nobody thinks Michael Che is being serious.
Exactly.
He's saying something absurd,
Outlandish that could never be true.
that again, if you take it as serious, becomes very funny, right?
Yeah.
But nobody that I know of anyway has leveled any serious critiques against Michael Che for being sexist or misogynist or anything like that.
It's like the entire country is in on the bit.
Yep.
And that's what makes
when
it funny.
I will
comedy
say there
can be
have been a
done really
couple
well.
times where some of the jokes Che has made that has ruffled a little bit.
Well,
but-
of course they have.
but not to the point where like it's been like a huge controversy.
Have you
Yeah.
seen anybody like boycotting SNL?
Yes.
I mean, there might be some
other
people,
than
but-
like, Yeah, no.
Listen, Brad and I are on.
I don't know what that means.
Brad and I are on the dregs of Facebook's SNL critique.
I'm not.
And I know,
What are they saying?
No, I'm telling you.
Ben doesn't pay attention to it. There's some real dipshits out there.
Is that true? Is it?
The SNL Superfans group on Facebook is full of some of
Shout out to
the
them.
stupidest fucking things I've ever read.
Are you serious?
and
Yeah.
I can't stop
I
reading it.
don't want to join that now.
Seriously, it's so frustrating. It takes everything in my power not to comment on
Are
it.
they just like
I know.
Michael Che's a racist and a homophobic and a
No, it's not.
women
No,
are-
it's the opposite.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's like people like
Yeah, women are terrible.
who are all out in support of Chappelle and like Amy Schumer's not funny and like all this kind. It's
oh
like
my god, that's even. You're right. That's even worse.
yeah, it's terrible shit.
So it's not the woke mob. It's the other way.
broke mob.
No, nice.
But no, I want to give a shout out especially to the one joke that really got me from Che this week was when he was talking about the girl from University of Kentucky who got kicked out of school for
Oh
saying
my
racial
God.
slurs and
Impersonating-
beating on two black people, and she was arrested for impersonating a police
That
officer.
was such a great joke.
So fucking
Good groans from the audience.
hilarious.
If we talk about this, if comedy is the unexpected, that got me to my core.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming
Just
at
a
all.
great
joke.
great
Great
one
joke.
liner.
All right, let's move on to some of the bits from.
Well, before we get to the bits, I do want to just reaffirm that this was yet another knockout installment of Weekend Update where Che and Jost did have some good.
Okay, I will admit,
some
you
good
did
back
feel
and
that
forth.
way. You
also,
did feel that.
a little disappointed that Nate, you didn't bring that up.
Well, I didn't know if people are getting tired of that bit. You know,
I
that
d- you know what, from now
It's
on,
not a bit. It's a serious critique, and we need to focus on it.
and that's Nate. Next time, like honestly, look at me, look at my eyes. Start with it next time.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Nate, look at me now. Look at me now. Don't fuck this up.
We're going to talk about this after this is done. I'm sure. All right, moving on to some of the bits for Weekend Update. Weekend Updates, Jose Suarez on his goal to be the first Latino-American president. Newcomer Marcelo Hernandez stops by Weekend Update to discuss his intention to be the first Latino-American president. He's pairing a character, obviously, called Jose Suarez. I love where they're like, so what are you going to do? He's like, everything's basically fine. Like he's like, I just kind of want to do my thing, you know? What did you guys think of him? I mean, again,
I loved it. I loved his energy throughout this whole thing.
Again, there were some jokes that didn't land for me, or sometimes it just meandered a little bit. His energy, though, is just
It was like
hypnotic almost. It's
yeah,
just
like
so
almost like a somewhat mad exuberance of like just being happy to be there.
good. Yep, and when you watch SNL as much as we do, you kind of start seeing some of the people that are gonna do well, and he's kind of got it. Like he's just got this thing where you could tell he's gonna bring he brings an energy to SNL that they need, kind of that manic energy. B, he brings a personality that they need as well. And C, he's just charismatic as all get out.
So
I loved him.
The thing that I love about him is that there's no one else on the show like him.
Yep.
Right. So he brings something completely unique to this atmosphere. And honestly, much like Sarah Sherman, they both have this little window that they just knock out of the park.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Hernandez can do it like Sherman, where Brad's pointed out where if Sarah Sherman is put in, and I'm using finger quotes here, put in a normal outfit, she looks, it's like, oh my God.
I don't say put in a normal outfit because that's not.
I wouldn't.
You've
say
said
that
that.
either.
You've said normal.
No. I
You
don't-
said normal.
No, I say what people perceive as normal. I say when she doesn't dress in her typical alternative wardrobe.
Yeah,
because that's what's accurate.
No, I feel like you say normal. So, you just try,
just off the podcast.
it's really
he
just
does, yeah.
aggressive. Anyway, I've railed against that, but when you say
Oh,
normal,
my
I just
God.
agree with it. It's fine. Whatever you think is normal is normal. Anyway, but the idea here is when they do put Sarah Sherman in something that is known as normal to the general public, like as in this is a wig that is not a crazy haircut. And
Yeah,
this is
it's not her mullet or
exactly. It's just
not big bright colors and
she
like,
looks like she works on Wall Street instead.
Yep.
And it looks like a different person. I don't know that Hernandez will have that availability to like cross over from this bombastic Latino character that he's doing. Much like when Bowen Yang first started the show, there was a lot of pushback on like, yeah, he does the same flamboyant gay character over and over again. And that has actually subsided now. There are people in, and I do actually follow the Reddit and whatever. And people have come around on Bowen Yang to say, oh, actually, he's a really good character actor. He can do nuance. He doesn't have to be this flamboyantly gay character. I think that Hernandez has the same availability here. He's starting off as this bombastic character, but I think that he needs to prove that he can do other things as well.
Yeah,
Sarah Sherman has already proved that.
Yeah, he certainly needs to evolve.
But right now I'm loving.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to take that away. By the way,
in particular,
no, absolutely. And honestly, I had that same critique of Bowen Yang in the beginning and maybe they're only just writing him in specific sketches.
Well,
that
remember the Chinese delegate that he was playing, and it was this like daddy version of, and so that's what we came to know him. I'm like, wow, he's doing the same thing. Now I'm looking at like Jesus, he can do anything.
He's going to be.
He's literally a star.
Yep.
I loved in the Marcelo Hernandez bit here when he does the white voice to Colin Jost. So it's like when he's like, "What do you mean, my chancleta?" the way he said it.
It is the same thing when he did the Dominican baseball thing. Yeah. Where he was like, and so the announcer says like, "And coming to the plate," and then he's doing the same bit but different. Yeah. And it's enough. It's so good.
Yeah. Good stuff.
And the confidence that, again, he's pretty young.
Absolutely.
The confidence he exudes.
Clearly not nervous.
Fantastic. All right, moving on. Second bit of a weekend update. The Sarah news. Now, I had read on Reddit, actually, some people that had been in the rehearsals talked about this. Actually, they had been working on this for a couple weeks, from what I understand.
Oh.
And so this was
like it didn't work?
Yeah, I think they just needed to kind of work it up a little bit. There were some things that they wanted to do, but some... people oftentimes will go to rehearsals. These kind of things are the run-throughs, and they'll talk about
the dress rehearsal, Nate.
It's fine. I think everyone knew.
Well, let's talk about your skits then. Get the terminology correct. Is what I'm saying.
When they did their practice skits.
Yeah, when they
don't back him up. What are you doing?
You know what? Hey,
that's what he's talking about. When they did practice skits.
Hey, Brad, I'm turning his mic off for the rest of the episode.
It's a good idea.
So where they talk about essentially some of the sketches that didn't get used, these kind of things, and this was on there a couple weeks in a row, and so I was glad to actually see this kind of work through. This was written by Dan Bulla, Martin Herlihy, John Higgins, Ben Marshall, and Sarah Sherman. Obviously, the Please Don't Destroy guys with Sarah Sherman have a great bond. They write together oftentimes.
This was
almost
incredible. Always
with Sarah Sherman. The Please Don't Destroy guys are writing with her.
Brad, did you love this?
Oh, I absolutely.
It was like Nickelodeon on mushrooms.
It was incredible.
This was one of the instances where if I were you, I would have given this the best sketch of the night.
But he can't do it.
But I can't do it.
But you're not me.
Because I got rules and I had to follow them.
Well, I'll surprise you as well.
Uh-oh.
There was some...
Why? Oh!
I don't know.
What do you guys...
Chappelle's monologue, my favorite.
Hey, tell me this. Do you think, obviously, Che and Jost are on the tail end of... I don't know how long they'll be doing Weekend Update.
Until season 50.
But maybe. But
I guarantee it.
Let's say they do. Do you think Sarah Sherman is a fitting replacement and could evolve Weekend Update to do some really fun things?
No. Because I thought about this when I was writing my review, and I was thinking about, would I want to see this as like a replacement on regular Weekend Update and see it?
Nope.
No, and because
it needs to be that, right?
Yeah, this works as a contrast to what Weekend Update is. Like, it's something that is amped up. That's a lot. It has a different kind of manic energy to it. It's zany. It's crazy, and it's focused on Sarah Sherman. I don't want to see Sarah Sherman trying to do Weekend Update jokes. I want to see Sarah Sherman doing jokes that are about her in her weird way. With that Lisa Frank meets David Cronenberg, like neon intestines and brains and the background.
Nickelodeon on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Right?
The idea that like back in what was it? I'm going to say 2003, 6, whatever it was.
2036?
2003-6.
Oh.
2003, 2006. When Tina Fey and Jimmy Fallon were... Jimmy Fallon was the silliest person I could ever think to be an anchor.
Yeah.
But Tina Fey balanced that.
Yeah.
And so the most I could think was if you did Sarah Sherman, you'd have to have like,
Tom Brokaw,
Mikey Day or something be the, because I'm not saying that I'm against it. I'm saying you would need to have, if you're going to do a silly person, you got to do a serious person. And Tina Fey
I also think
had that gravitas. I don't know that anyone else on the cast currently has the gravitas to pull in a Sarah Sherman like Tina did with Jimmy. That's all I'm saying.
The difference is this version of Sarah Sherman is still like a character.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And but everyone doing Weekend Update like at the desk is essentially them. Doing one-liners. And so to have Sarah Sherman doing Weekend Update at like this, that's not Weekend Update.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, Nate.
But I love this. I laughed so hard.
Do you know why I
when
love
she
this?
when she said the turkey waddle between her legs.
Oh my God, I honestly was like,
and the fact that they have the actual turkey waddle
Yes,
wiggling in the
wiggling.
picture too. Oh my
College
God.
Joe's like, that's gross.
but even
So
from the
gross.
get-go, they brought in a pink desk.
Yeah.
They like
and
that-
a map too.
Right. All of that stuff worked so well. So
Yeah.
again, kudos to the props department for like taking that reality and bending it. We were so used to her being like the reporter on scene making
Yeah.
fun of Colin. I'm like, oh great. What are they going to
Yeah,
do?
I thought it was gonna be that, but it was
And now
different and fun.
We kept saying, this is going to be funny until they run out of things to do.
Yeah.
They have not run out of things to do.
And also the other joke I love was when she did air quotes for Michael Che's straight persona.
His Michael Chase update persona.
Yeah.
And all that did for you, Brad, was to bring in Colin Jost and Michael Che
Yep.
together. So then now we're back full
and
circle.
Che's reaction, the cut to it was quick,
Yep.
and the look on his face was
Yep.
perfect.
That's what you love. I get it.
Love it.
All right, moving on. Heaven
Perfect weekend
Seen,
update, by the way.
Written
Perfect.
by Alex
Mhm.
English, Gary Richardson, Streeter Seidel.
Sorry, I cut you off. What
No,
did you
you're
say?
fine. Heaven Seen, written by Alex English, Gary Richardson and Streeter Seidel. A dead man, played by Devin Walker, goes to Black Heaven. He is shown around by hosts Ego Nwodim, Kenan Thompson. The gimmick of this sketch is Mikey Day fills in on Dave Chappelle's part and says a lot of slang that Dave Chappelle would. Donnell Rawlings cameos in the sketch. Punky Johnson appears in the sketch as well.
Best sketch of the night.
It was close. This was very funny.
I loved this.
It was the best sketch of the
Mikey
night.
Day was. I can't
He's
say
perfect.
that line.
He's perfect. It's the most Mikey Day you could ever
Oh,
hope
it
for. I can do that. I've heard him say it 1,000 times. Oh, so
The
good.
cuts to Dave Chappelle were
Yep.
funny.
Seriously, yeah. Like watching him laugh and like them just like crack up at
It's
the
the
scenario.
only time, I'm not joking, it's the only time when him smoking a cigarette made sense.
Yeah.
Because he's off camera, so
Yeah, being
he would be able to
casual.
do whatever. Oh my God, dude. It was so good. Mikey Day is incredible as this character. They couldn't have casted it better. 10 out of 10. This is an all-timer. It's
And hey,
so good.
I learned something because I don't know about you guys. I had no idea that Mikey Day was on Wild and Out.
I actually went to Google that after.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no.
And it's true.
It is absolutely
Yeah.
true. It is absolutely true. So what did you think of Devin Walker in this sketch?
They
So,
couldn't
okay.
even keep a straight face.
All right. So I will say, of course, I thought they set it up perfectly that Dave Chappelle's character was going to be played by Devin Walker. That was so, yeah. If you're asking me a question, I'm going to answer with, yeah, he was a good fake out. He did great standing there.
All right, please don't destroy, guys. We're back for another pre-tape election night, written by Martin Hurley, John Higgins, and Ben Marshall. Molly Kearney becomes the Attorney General of Ohio, must make a speech soon. Real life NBC News reporter Steve Kornacki cameos. Molly Kearney,
Good Lord.
I am such a big fan now.
I love
Yeah.
She
them.
brings again
they
energy. They bring such a great energy to this show.
Yeah.
That was needed. Gives a little bit of a Chris Farley
Dude,
vibe.
it's a Farley vibe all day long.
I want to
And
be careful
I don't
because
care.
it's not an impression.
No, it's not.
It's
It's
honestly
an honest and authentic.
It's a
vibe for her.
personification, really.
it really is a mix. This is gonna sound like that I'm leaning into a stereotype when I describe what they're doing. But it really is a Chris Farley meets A.D. Bryant scenario, and it's not just because they're a bigger comedian. It's because the presence that they have. There's a Chris Farley energy, but there's also a little bit of A.D. Bryant there too. The way that they say certain lines, but it's with it's an A.D. Bryant inflection with a Chris Farley voice.
And it's a bigger than life character
Yeah.
always, and they don't. It's that thing where they don't know that they're being bigger than the rest of everybody in the room, right?
Yeah.
Where they just say like, "I just don't know," and it's you look at that and go like, no one would be that loud, but we all know people that are that loud, and Chris Farley was that
We
loud.
definitely know people
Well,
who are that
No,
loud.
Brad
But-
and I know people that loud.
But the idea here is that they are so good at that, and it comes across so naturally. There's no putting on airs. Nothing about their performance is trying too hard.
Yeah.
It's just who they are.
Yeah.
And I respect that so much as somebody who also identifies as a funny person.
Oh, it's good that you self-identify.
Yeah,
No one else does. I
It's
get it.
hard. It's hard to fake lovability.
Oh,
Chris Farley had it,
Yep.
and everyone that knew Chris Farley said
Yep.
he was lovable. Like
Yeah.
he was just genuinely innocent and lovable.
Molly has got
Molly
that
Kearney
going on
seems to
in
have
spades.
that as well.
Oh my
that
God! In
it's
David
just
Spades.
hard not to love them.
and the sketch too.
Well, yeah. Besides that, it's a really funny premise.
Yeah, what I think this is like Please Don't Destroy at their best, because I always love when they escalate a situation in such a fast pace, short amount of time. Like watching them go through this entire gamut is hilarious to me, because it's the way that it completely condenses the time of which it happens and how they go through all of the rigmarole of an election.
I really do love that, because it's not just about what they're doing in the sketch. It's about the political cycle and how quickly that could go.
Yeah.
And it's truncated even more, obviously.
Yeah.
When he knocks on the door and comes in with the camera, well, I'm here now. That's really funny.
Yeah.
It's a good moment.
And the reaction to, was it Chris Kornacki? Is that his name?
Steve Kornacki.
Steve Kornacki. Wow.
Yeah, great.
Steve Kornacki.
I don't know how Steve Kornacki had time this week because I'm a huge Steve Kornacki fan, and obviously it's election week, and he was busy.
Yeah, but the way that they react to it is like they're incredulous about it. It's like, wait, what?
Why are you here? Yeah, no.
And then
the sketch works. It works so well.
It's like Christmas every day, and then the segue and the time out there. It can't be Christmas every day because it would no longer be a special day.
It's so
They just
good.
do so
Yeah.
absurd, funny.
Even little stuff like the cut to the kid's face after he's threatened, and
it was so good.
Yeah.
Like, it was so good.
and Sarah Sherman, being out of her normal dress and like looking like a legit politician's wife,
I didn't realize that was Sarah Sherman.
See?
Exactly.
Did not realize that. I honestly didn't.
As Brad would say, when she looks normal.
I don't say it.
So if we could pick a cut for time, if we could pick a pre-tape for sketch,
You can pick a pre-tape for
So,
my sketch.
No,
I
you
don't-
absolutely can.
but
Yeah.
I don't like doing that because they had multiple.
Also, you
takes.
have your own rules too. I get mocked for my rules, but then you
No,
have,
here's the thing: is we've seen terrible pre-tapes as well, so I feel like
Yeah.
that's a legitimate.
I don't know,
premise.
though.
and they're sketches. They're
I don't
full-on
know.
sketches.
I don't know. It feels disingenuous because
We've
you
picked
have
so many
I'm pretty
pre-tapes as
sure
favorite
he has
sketches.
as well.
Yeah.
But you have but I just feel okay, maybe it's just me, but I feel like
It is
live
just
there's so much more in the balance.
Sure.
So that's what it's harder to pick a pre-tape.
I don't know if it's harder. If it's the funniest as far as, and it's a flat out sketch, because for me the difference is it's Weekend Update. They're not necessarily sketches. Like there's no story there. Like they're basically doing the equivalent of a stand-up bit
I'm not allowed to pick
or a one-man show.
a pre-tape, and I'm not allowed to pick Weekend Update.
No, you are allowed to pick a pre-tape. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm not allowed to pick Weekend Update, even
Right.
though it's a whole.
But it's
segment.
not a full sketch.
I think you can pick Weekend Updates bits, but Brad doesn't. So
Yeah.
and
And what I say goes.
you and I can both.
It's okay because this time it was legitimately the Heaven sketch was the best one.
Black Heaven.
It was
yeah.
incredible.
Let's move on to our
Yeah.
favorite.
So what are you even complaining about?
This episode, nothing.
Favorite sketch.
Actually, this episode, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, there you
favorite
go.
sketch of the night. Black Heaven for
Oh,
me. For you
by
as
far,
well.
by far.
Potato Hole was mine.
Potato
But Black Heaven was
It's
very
so
close.
good. Mikey Day was so good, and he gives my MVP because of that. He was
so
so
you
good.
gave my MVP of the night, Mikey Day.
Yes.
For you, what
Done.
did you?
Sarah
Done.
Sherman.
Sarah,
Yeah, because of the Weekend Update. Cool.
Sarah Sherman for me as well. That
Just-
was brilliant.
Just keep telling me that I can't pick Weekend Update characters as the sketch of the night, but yet you guys can pick them for your performer of the night. That's fine. Everything works. This is great.
Thanks. Thanks for following the rules.
Man, you
Hey.
guys are so shitty.
We're on a break soon, right, Brad? What we got?
We
Like
are
couple
on a
weeks?
break. We'll be away for the next few weeks. There's no Thanksgiving episode, which is disappointing. I love my SNL Thanksgiving
too.
episodes. I love feasting on comedy.
But you know
I
what? Coming
agree.
up December 3rd, Tom Cruise hosting with Nickelback.
I want that to be true so bad.
I don't honestly know if December 3rd
For a
is a
second there,
Saturday.
I thought Tom Cruise was really hosting. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, it is December 3rd.
Is it really?
It is December 3rd.
I guess that was a total guess. I love it.
But the host is Keke Palmer, who is
Oh,
the
that's gonna be fun.
star of this summer's Nope, Jordan Peele's sci-fi horror movie.
Which comes to Peacock really soon, which I'm guessing why she's going to be on.
I mean, I'm sure she's just on because SNL wasn't on during the summer, and so it's convenient.
I know,
to
but
bring it. But the
but it's
timing,
it's also
yeah,
timing
it is synergy because it is
Yeah,
a
that's what I'm
Universal
saying.
movie and
So I'm
Peacock
agreeing
and
with Nate that because it's coming out on Peacock, that's why she's hosting.
She
good,
should host. She's a great talent,
regardless of the time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I bet they looked
Shut
at the
up.
calendar. They looked at the calendar and said, "Nope is coming to Peacock this week. Let's put her on this week."
Yeah, Nope is coming. Yep, Kiki Palmer.
Okay, well,
I wish they would have gotten Jordan Peele to host again, but you know.
Oh man.
So we obviously, if you're gonna miss our voices, as you probably do,
yes,
we've got another podcast. Go Flix Yourself. Look that up, and you can follow us. We will still be recording those weeks that we're off here on the 10 to 1.
Yeah, we'll be talking about turkey movies, Christmas movies. Just having laughs.
Yeah, I can't
doing
wait.
like a Bubba Gump shrimp thing. Turkey movies,
Mhm.
Christmas movies.
Mhm.
New Year's movies.
No, you're doing Sling
You're
Blade.
doing Sling Blade. That's actually not at all. Hey, by the way, has Billy Bob Thornton ever hosted SNL?
Ooh, I think he has actually.
I honestly think he has.
I think he hosted in like the late 90s.
So real quick before we end, just real quick, in the second part of the year, who do you want to host?
Tom Cruise.
Well, he's never going to host. He won't ever host. Leo DiCaprio will never host. They take themselves too seriously. But who legitimately has a shot at hosting that you would actually like to see? I want to see Chris Hemsworth again. I don't care in what capacity. I just want to see Hemsworth do it again. I love him so much.
Has Keanu Reeves ever hosted?
I would love to see Keanu Reeves host. Nate, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of really, really great talents out there that Chris Hemsworth would be a great one. I don't actually remember his last one. What were some of the sketches, if you remember?
I honestly don't remember what the individual sketch was. I just remember watching his second time hosting was phenomenal and thinking, oh my God, he did it again. Angela Bassett would have been amazing for Wakanda Forever. She is tremendous. I would have loved to see her.
It looks like Keanu Reeves has not hosted SNL. Billy Bob Thornton has hosted. He hosted once in 2001. It's right around the time that we thought it would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, Keanu Reeves hasn't. That's who I would like to see host
Yeah.
SNL.
All right.
Maybe should we get another Paul Rudd where he gets to actually host?
I mean,
Please.
I would love that.
Yeah,
Because
Ant-Man comes out in March.
Yeah,
so-
We should probably
Or February,
figure out,
I think.
like who's on the cusp of the Five Timers Club. I would love to see, whoever is right there.
You know what?
Timberlake, is he?
No, he's already 5-timers.
So it's
Has Channing Tatum ever hosted?
Yes, I believe so.
Because he's got the next Magic Mike's coming out early next year as well.
Mhm,
Maybe that would be
mhm.
another good one.
Denzel?
Oh, I don't know if he's ever hosted.
I would love to see Denzel host.
That would be fun.
John Wick 4 again, or John Wick Chapter 4 would be a good one.
Will we see
Ooh, what about Michael B. Jordan?
I was literally just gonna say that because of Creed.
Yeah.
I would like,
Or Tessa Thompson maybe as well, because she's
Oh my God, Tessa Thompson would be amazing.
I want Tessa Thompson to host something in LaPorte.
Tessa, hey, come on down.
Yeah.
I know you don't do stand up, but we do stand up comedy shows.
Or if she wants to host an intimate charcuterie night.
What are you doing right now? Are you?
Tessa Thompson,
I don't know if you know this. He's got a little bit of a crush.
Tessa Thompson, I don't know what you're doing, but I would love to just hang out.
That got weird quick. It's
Well,
like me and
that's-
Heidi Gardner.
What about
Oh, you know who would be fun? Lupita Nyong'o.
yes, or Anya Taylor-Joy? She's got some films coming out next year as well.
Mhm.
What about Fred Armisen, who has a role in the Super Mario Brothers coming out in May, coming back to
You know what?
host?
Vanessa Bayer.
I will take
I would
Vanessa
love
I
to
Bayer.
see
just
her.
want
and all.
Vanessa Bayer for all, and I only want her to do Weekend Update characters the entire night.
No,
Okay.
there are some
She's incredible.
great talents to come.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to take a break. Go Flix Yourself is also available on the online. So go, follow us here, follow us there, follow us everywhere.
All right.
Easy, Dr. Seuss.
All right. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Bye-bye.